I've never done that before. I've never walked the whole entire farm boundary with him. I've done parts of it, but not the whole thing. And I mean, that was really enlightening because when I look at these polygons drawn on I don't know, on my computer, and I see these little squiggles, it's just could not be more abstract. It's just such a abstracted experience. There's nothing for me to relate to. Maybe if we used a different kind of satellite imagery that showed me trees in more detail, I might feel differently, but nothing really can give you the reality of the experience except being here. You know, our lived experience of this place is just so incredibly rich. It's there's sounds, crunching, a lot of crunching as we walk on the leaves.
My favorite song.
Crunching always, right? Cocoa farms sound crunchy to me. And obviously the temperature is another thing. It's pretty hot. The other noises of the bird and insect life. We're brushing up against leaves, you know, and trees and stuff, and we feel the textures. We had a wonderful moment where there was a mushroom harvest, and I see a mushroom here. I don't know if they dropped it, so let me pick it up. Did they drop it? Very sensory experience to see the harvesting of the mushroom and how it was removed from the ground so delicately. So, yeah, and I think the other thing, too, is you can see these polygons that are squiggly, but that just doesn't give the sense of, like, the twists and turns and the movement that we just did, you know? It's really, we're making hairpin turns and going around trees or moving around kind of different plants and markers in the land that, again, it would be impossible for me to interpret. And I always am thinking now about the people who are tasked with walking farm boundaries, and unless the farmer was right there with them, how would they ever know? No. They wouldn't.
No, wouldn't be possible.
The farmer has to really be intimately involved with the polygon mapping process for it to be true. You know, I think the other thing that I would just say is the first time I was on this farm was like 5 or 6 years ago, and John had just replanted. And I remember at that time I was really nervous about stepping on the baby cocoa seedlings and squishing them. And so, you know, I think now it's 5 or 6 years later, and these trees are grown, they're fully grown, and I'm no longer afraid of stepping on them.
They are big boys and girls now.
They're completely grown-ups. And that transforms the farm so completely. Yeah. You know, I know where I am, but because we drove here, but if you just dropped me in the middle of this farm today, I wouldn't necessarily really know, because 5 or 6 years ago, it just looked completely different. And, you know, the requirements of this legislation are just annual risk assessment updates. And farms change, and farmers change, and landscapes change. For a lot of reasons. Replanting might be one of them, but there's disease, there's weather, there's disputes between neighbors or resolutions between neighbors. I mean, there's 101 reasons why farms might look different and shift. And again, that comes down to how do you resource the constant updates and make sure that what we're delivering in terms of compliance data is true and authentic to the farmer's experience. That's going to cost a lot, you know, in terms of all the different resources we need to bring to this endeavor. So really enlightening. I'm just very grateful to have had this experience for myself in person with all the team, so that we can bring this forward as we work on solutions.